Hey, my name is Zaki. I have been working on blockchain since 2014. I am going to be talking about Sommelier Finance and our sort of, Sommelier is an interesting project because it is built with the laws of Cosmos technologies, but it is fundamentally an Ethereum dApp. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why we built it this way and what are the sort of powers and capabilities that we got from building this way and how sort of it applies to sort of the regulatory design of our system. So the entire sort of vision of Sommelier is to sort of fix a couple of different problems. One is to sort of solve for what I view as a looming re-centralization of the DeFi ecosystem. The reality of the DeFi ecosystem is that as protocols get more and more complex, you end up in this model where it becomes like sort of a for every user, it's a full-time job to participate in the protocol. And so, this observation has led to, more and more of the participation in protocol coming from like sort of institutional investors of various shapes and sizes, and we essentially re-centralize the entire world of DeFi rather than democratizing access to finance. And I would say my mission in the last 8 years of working in this space is basically one thing, which is that to try and ensure that the structure and infrastructure of digital markets is sort of an open, decentralized public good, and not sort of recreate what we've had before, which is a series of private institutions that provide critical social infrastructure. So one of the general things that I think has been bad about the way in which we as an industry have communicated to the rest of the world about what it is that we're doing is that we generally act as if we are creating casinos on blockchains, and not what we are actually doing and what I think we're actually doing, which is we are using speculative incentives to draw in essentially beta testers, and those beta testers will leave behind them a legacy of secure infrastructure that we know works under real-world market conditions. So the entire purpose of this phase of infrastructure is it is very much sort of exploring a frontier. There is an enormous amount of risk that comes with exploring those frontiers. There needs to be proportional rewards for those risks, otherwise no one would do it. And there is a social benefit to those risks, which is that that software only starts to work when people really start to depend on it. So what we need is this entire population of people to come here and break and battle test this new frontier. So Sommelier has this sort of has a core product, which we call sellers. And so as I mentioned, what we see is this, what I perceive there to be is a looming re-centralization of DeFi. And the looming re-centralization comes from the fact that if everything is, if protocols are capital efficient, if they are sophisticated, if they are advanced, then you end up in this situation where you need someone to help you. So this is where this name Sommelier comes from. So why did we pick the name Sommelier? So Sommelier, you have this very complex world of wine. A sommelier is a person who helps you choose. In our protocol, Sommelier, is a system that allows people to get the same assistance when using DeFi. And sellers are the primary mechanism to do this. They are a way of having a non-custodial, sort of actively managed strategy that can run on top of any DeFi protocol. So that's the core of what Sommelier is, a strategy automation platform for multi-chain DeFi. So essentially, we are inviting a group of people to onto this platform who are moving from this model of these sort of looming re-centralizations where you have traditional hedge funds and coming on and offering DeFi strategies to their LPs, but this is not accessible to the ordinary person. retail investors who are trying to figure out how to participate in these systems, but are constantly having to do their own rebalancing, and community members who are trying to move beyond just multi-segs and DAO votes that don't actually have any consequences. So one of the sort of way we position what Sommelier is doing is markets are inherently dynamic. They are inherently changing as people evolve their capital, or sort of as markets evolve, as market conditions evolve. What we have in DeFi right now are static vault strategies. And those static vault strategies do not evolve with the markets. Instead, they are optimized for a particular set of conditions that change over time, and users are still having to rebalance. In order to have what Sommelier enables is dynamic vaults with off-chain computation. So you have this dynamic mechanism, so you can have the classic momentum trading strategies, or social media social media sentiment watchers, or as something as somewhat vanilla, which is what we have live right now, as an Aave stablecoin strategy, which just observes what are the lending rates and what are the predicted future lending yields on lending a different stablecoin, and adapts to it. So how did we build this? So I had mentioned, and I'm mostly known for my work in building much of the Cosmos ecosystem, that we have this very clever architecture that we have. I call my own work clever, but here we are. The mechanism is, so what we have is sellers consist of smart contracts that live on the Ethereum or other EVM blockchains. Right now we just support Ethereum. That seller contract is most of the user interface. So if you go to Sommelier, the Sommelier, app.sommelier.finance, all you see is a MetaMask pop-up. You are not asked to interact with the Cosmos chain in any way. There's no bridging of funds or doing anything. You provide your funds directly as an LP into that smart contract. So you are interacting with this vault contract. You get a vault asset back, from your point of view, now this thing is just going to invisibly sort of optimize according to this strategy. The way the strategy works is we actually use the Cosmos chain as a way of, so what happens is we have these off-chain strategy providers. For every given seller, there's a strategy provider. That strategy provider makes recommendations about trades, essentially, about rebalances directly to the validators. The validators come to consensus on the Cosmos chain, and then the bridge executes those. So again, there's no bridging of funds. There is simply using the chain as a way of decentralizing these choices. And so this mechanism, this architecture, allows us to achieve a couple of different things. So, this is the interface that we present. Again, if you use the interface, it's just MetaMask. You don't see any Cosmos in it. The Cosmos is all buried inside. And if you're a strategy provider, you have to care about that layer. But if you're a user, you don't. So we define these new rules. So seller creators create the smart contract. You can aggregate several DeFi protocols. We have right now an Aave strategy, but we are building a sort of general purpose smart contract architecture that can aggregate several DeFi protocols together that you can build adapters for. We're all trying to make this sort of supply chain of building new seller strategies as easy as possible. But if you have a DeFi strategy and you'd like to integrate with Sommelier, we have plenty of people on our smart contract team who can help you. Then you have this off-chain role, you provide a data feed. But if you are providing the data feed, you are not actually controlling any funds, you are not actually rebalancing anything. You are just making recommendations to validators. And the validators are controlled by the staking system on the SOB chain, and actually are the ones who come to consensus on when the rebalance function should be executed. So what have we been trying to do? We have been trying to create the system of checks and balances. Sommelier governance can vet new sellers before deployment. So again, our model is to try and, again, start to sort of a little bit follow the self-regulatory example of traditional finance. So you have these token holders. The token holders are going to vet new sellers for deployment. One of the things that we've been trying to do is align incentives. So when you are holding SOM and you're staking SOM, you don't get paid unless the sellers actually, so we don't have any staking rewards that come from inflation of the SOM token, et cetera. The way SOM token holders get paid is from fees on the success of sellers, i.e. sellers have to bring in capital, they have to bring in users, they have to make the users money, and then you get staking rewards. So you have a strong incentive to think critically and wisely as a SOM holder about what sellers you're vetting. So this self-regulatory incentive is designed to sort of create an alignment that again, turns SOM from less of a platform that is going to be, let's say, reckless with what it offers users to something that is going to optimize for sort of maximizing the mutual benefit of all the parties. Strategists on our platform can do a bad trade, but the smart contract that runs on Ethereum is actually going to restrict them from walking away with users' funds. And again, these are checks and balances. We are not, one of the things that we've really wanted to do is make it so that, again, the security of the SOM chain itself is necessary for the strategists to operate, for SOM holders to make money, but it's not necessary for users to be able to withdraw their funds. All of that relies on the underlyings, on where the seller contract actually lives. And then the third thing is, if a strategist just disappears or is consistently making bad trades, validators can actually update locally what strategy feed provider is providing a feed for that seller. And that mechanism can allow them to, and that mechanism of picking a new feed provider sort of gives them this sort of governance control. But it also means that, again, users are not relying on any one party, like a specific strategist, to make sure that the strategy, instead they're relying on the sort of full incentives of the protocol. So we are, one of the sort of other narratives, I think, is that Cosmos has I think spent most of this last year sort of focused, and in general, we have been focusing a little bit too much on sort of speculative incentives and staking yield and just inflationary incentives. And really what we are trying to do with SOM is try and show that you can bring a real yield product to Cosmos. So SOM token holders only earn yield from shared profits from sellers. So what happens is that so you have these smart contracts that are sitting on Ethereum. They are being rebalanced. They earn profits. Those profits are tracked. Those profits are bridged. Those bridge tokens are auctioned for SOM. And then that SOM is distributed over time to stakers. And so this mechanism is really sort of driven again by real profits for users as a driver for staking rewards rather than the traditional sort of if you don't stake, you're just going to be inflated away and we're going to punish non-stakers. So where are we? What is the state of the system? So the first seller is live. It's an Aave rebalancing stablecoin seller. It is unfortunately a bit of a bull market product. In a bear market, the stablecoin lending has been, the yields on stablecoin lending have been low. And so we actually have yet to have rebalanced out of lending tether. There is the first rebalance is always on the horizon. But we have a bunch of general purpose strategies that are going to be deployed. And what we have coming out at the end of September is what we call our HODL strategies, which are much more of a bear market strategy, which are an actively managed, actively traded strategy for accumulating, sort of trying to maximize the amount of ETH and Bitcoin up to you. It's your choice based on which strategy you pick. You would accumulate for dollars in. So something that can do something, the purpose of having active management is you can do something hey, instead of me having to watch Binance 24/7 and figure out when I want to buy and what diffs I want to buy. Why don't I make the machine do it for me? And with that, I would like to take questions if there are any. I see a question. Or any questions? Cool. I can probably explain some other pieces in the last 4 minutes. One is, so we are optimizing this platform for integration with other DeFi protocols. The first thing we integrated with was Aave. These HODL strategies will integrate with DEXs like Uniswap, allowing for automated trades. But we can pretty much integrate with any DeFi protocol. So if you make a DeFi protocol or you are a contributor to a DeFi protocol and you're like, hey, we have this thing which is really hard to use. We have trouble onboarding users into this role. We have trouble onboarding capital into this role. Sommelier can be a huge tool in your tool chain for adding in a sort of easier interface for capital without adding a custodial element. And that is like what I view as like one of the key things that we bring to the table. So if there are no other questions, thank you very much.